Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome. Orange Was Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. Good to be with you. Talking Longhorn football. One of the most interesting press conferences that Steve Sarkisian's had in a while. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, get notifications, jump into the Specs chat, send us some super chats, or not. You can just chat, jump into the comments section. Lots to talk about. Starting with the breaking news. It is on the thumbnail. It is the title of the show. It was already suspected, but Steve Sarkisian confirms that Arch Manning is in concussion protocol. He did not. I cannot believe my phone is ringing right now. That is so funny. I'm going to just throw it out the goddamn window. That's what I'm going to do, Chad.
Don't throw it out the window, please. Don't do that.
I cannot turn off my phone. You're going to pay a bill later, and I'm going to tell my phone, turn off.
Don't do it.
He really didn't get too specific, right? He was like, hey, we'll have updates later on in the week, which was, I think, expected. But I thought Anwar Richardson asked a really interesting point, and I thought the way Sarkisian answered it was paramount to the conversation that we're going to have all week, which was, is there a deadline for you? It is the question, right? In your mind, does he got to practice on Thursday? Does he have to be able to go through the walkthrough on Friday? Could you, in theory, he clears Saturday an hour before the game? You good?
And Anwar was not allowed to finish the question before he cut it off.
It was like, nope, it's the doctor's decision. And then he basically said, I don't have an arbitrary Sarkisian bar that for me, I want a quarterback to hit. I think that completely leaves it open, Chad, to the idea that literally as of Saturday, if he could get cleared, I think Steve Sarkisian would be completely comfortable. If the doctors have cleared it, I think he would play Arch Manning if Arch Manning wants to play.
Yeah.
Also, that's now the backdrop all the way to Saturday's game.
Also really helpful that this is that first game back at DKR. He does not have to get on a plane. He doesn't have to do any of the travel stuff. So you literally can have him in his bed, your doctors, whatever it is you need. Then the fact that it's a home game really helps out.
Well, look, there are these cycle of 24-hour stages that these players will go through. And, it's like, hey, do you have symptoms? The first one is 24 hours after the injury. Okay, then starts a new thing. And then, if you can keep passing the stages, you can go through this pretty quickly through a few days, right? It doesn't even have to be 7 days. It's not quite like that. The issue is that if you have any hiccups at all, it starts back over. Mm-hmm. And then you're not playing. So I think that, Steve Sarkisian has no idea. He can't. There's no way. It's like, how will he know if in 2 days sunlight bothers Arch?
Right.
Just he can't. Anwar and I were kind of talking about this earlier on the Overreaction Monday show. He can't he can literally shrug his shoulders in all of this and say, I have no idea what's going to happen. And the implications of that for the other team preparing for Texas in a way that Texas has to prepare for Vanderbilt this weekend are varied. He didn't go too crazy what did you think he said about Matthew Caldwell today? He could have said a lot. I thought he was measured with his words.
Very measured. I think he answered the questions about Caldwell while thinking to himself, I can't believe they're not asking me more about Arch. But it was, there was some, I guess, a little bit of basic confidence, but he did also mention KJ Lacey without anybody asking about KJ Lacey. I found that noteworthy. And then he talked about, the teammates responding to Caldwell. He was asked about, he's come in 2 wild situations and made plays. But if we're all going to be real about it, those are 2 plays and 3 total plays. I guess there was the handoff in overtime. And then there was the one throw when Arch had to come out with the helmet came off, right? And then there was this one. And then there was the throw to Mosley. But the fact that he mentioned KJ Lacey, I kind of noted that as well. So I thought it was a pretty basic answer on Caldwell.
2 questions. I think the second one, maybe I'm just an asshole media guy and I just do this and I'm sorry in advance, right? Because some people will hear when I get to question number 2 and go, Catch is just starting shit up.
Mm-hmm.
I want to acknowledge beforehand, it's possible. Number 1, he made a point, correct me if I'm wrong, yes or no, to say in every situation that we put him in so far, hey man, couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, basically.
That was said. Correct me if I'm wrong. He did not say today, hey, if Matthew Caldwell has to play 4 quarters for us in this game, we're 100% convinced that Matthew Caldwell can lead us to a victory over a top 10 Vanderbilt team. No questions asked, because that's who he is.
No, he definitely didn't say that. He said they looked at a lot of quarterbacks in the portal. It did not feel like Caldwell stood out in his mind as he was talking, and he certainly didn't give us reasons why Caldwell was the guy in the portal. He did not do that.
You know, the whole thing about the Overreaction Monday show earlier, and I had some pushback on Orange Bloods about this, and if I got it wrong, then I get it wrong. Chad and I will talk about thumbnails and titles all the time, and like sometimes people hate them, sometimes people don't. The headline of the Monday deal was, is Texas upgrading at quarterback if Matthew Caldwell has to start? I think the notion is ridiculous. I think, and I pointed out, there's no other position on the team this year where we've done this thing where they go from starter to backup where it's been good. Michael Taft this weekend. Hey, there's a 5-star back there. Maybe he's more physical. Oh, no, he's not better. You know, hey, surely the guy at left guard is better than the guy who's starting because the starter is so terrible. No. Surely the next guy, no. We're just doing this thing, right, where it's like this confirmation bias that it has to be better. We've seen Matthew Caldwell make 11 throws this season. He's completed, I think, 8 of them. Technically, he's the highest rated offensive player on the PFF grading scale. Like, Arch is second, has played a lot more snaps, but like every time, I swear to God, I'm going to throw this fucking phone out of my window. Mm-hmm. I have literally everything on the phone checked off. It shouldn't literally be breathing right now. I feel like Weekend at Bernie's, where I know Bernie's dead. I killed him. And yet every time I turn around, he's making out with a woman or like sailing or something. Sorry.
What you're dealing with is Phoebe Buffet and the smoke alarm. Do you remember that one? The fire alarm?
Yeah.
That Phoebe and the smoke alarm is where you are now, where you're about to scream at the phone, what do you want from me?
I'm there. Yeah. But, you know, I look at Matthew Caldwell, who's in his 6th year. He's played at a couple of schools. He played at Troy last year. Wasn't good. He wasn't going to be the starter at Troy. He was at Gardner-Webb for 2 years before that. Like, the sample size suggests he's got some real limitations as a player. Texas knows that Vanderbilt will be able to watch Troy film this weekend to get a beat on who he is. This is not like, well, we can catch him off guard with someone that they've never seen before. As I told Onware earlier today, I think there's a better chance that KJ Lacey gets called on in this game at some point than there is that Matthew Caldwell is so good that he makes everybody forget about Arch Manning. Like, I think that one of those two things is really extreme. Today, it felt like the head coach was telling me, we're going to try to win this game any way possible. We trust Matthew Caldwell. We're also really excited that KJ Lacey's running with the 2s, literally right after saying we really like Matthew Caldwell. I think everything is on the table this week if Arch can't play. But Sark, I think, also told us if Arch is cleared to play, I will play him. He didn't say that. But in not having like a, well, you know, if it's Saturday, he didn't even say if it's an hour before the game and he hasn't been cleared at some point, I mean, enough said, he didn't even say that. He was like, I'm letting the doctors do it. And so that was rushing for, hey man, if at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning my starting quarterback can play and he wants to play and the doctors say he can play, that dude is playing. Touche, Sark.
Yeah, I think it's kind of you and I remember when Steve McNair played in the NFL. McNair could not practice all week and they'd still play him. You remember those days, right? He had like a cracked sternum, but he was like one of the toughest humans ever. Well, Steve McNair hasn't practiced at all this week, fellas. And as soon as you get to that first snap, hey, look, here comes number 9. So, but this one, obviously, there's a sensitivity because it's concussion. We now know what he's dealing with. This injury report, you don't have to put what the injury is, but we know. So Wednesday night is really interesting now to watch. How does it start with Arch? And then, do you go ahead and just like, if you knew Wednesday night, he's not going to be able to go, would you start without and have that roll you through the week? Or do you leave the opportunity up? Do you try to find a way to make Clark Lee have to at least prep a little for Arch Manning? It's going to be wild to see how this all plays out. But to your point about the other quarterbacks, if it's got to be those 2 guys, or maybe it's just Caldwell, Sark said today he thinks this is an 8-possession football game. I thought that was noteworthy. He said, we're not getting 80 plays. We might get 50 or 60. He thinks it's 4 drives a half. Okay. So who runs those 4 drives? How do you run them? What do you need in those drives? This is going to be, it's crazy. It's a game we all know they could lose anyway. And now you're talking about this kind of question mark at quarterback. It puts a crazy backdrop on this game.
Hey, real quick, it does. Look, this week's going to be boring by, I think, the ability for us. We can predict how this is going to go. This is the only Arch reaction show or talk show of this week that I will find interesting, because we know how this is. We know how this is going to go. We know what it will sound like on Thursday. I think talking about the implications now is really interesting, and then we're going to beat ourselves to death with it. I did want to hit this super chat, and then we'll take a break, and then Wes, I promise. Hold on. That's not what I meant to do. I wanted to put this up here. Sorry, still learning how to do the mouse. This new computer, the mouse now rolls in a different direction than it did before. So up is down and down is up. And it's like driving on the left side of the road versus the right side of the road. Jay Wag says, with this being Arch's second brain injury within a calendar year, how should the staff handle Arch when it comes to the run game? Jay Wags, they've never confirmed that there was a brain injury. In fact,
I was going to say,
if a brain injury occurred in the Ohio State game, the answer was no. Now, does everybody believe that? I don't think so. But I don't know that officially that's the position behind the scenes. It's a fair thing to bring up. I would be lying if I said it hadn't at least crossed my mind. But we shouldn't talk about that with a real strong level of certainty, because I'm not certain about it. I know what I think, but I don't know anything.
And to be clear, you're discussing the Ohio State semifinal game.
Correct.
Right. Correct. The one where he comes in on the run package, and there was the discussion about did they take his helmet?
Exactly.
But you're right. The staff, I don't think anyone has officially really confirmed or denied.
No, I remember in the spring he was asked about it and there was a denial.
Okay. So he denied it much later.
Yeah. It was months afterwards.
So he would tell us this is not a second brain injury.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Or he would be confirming something that my memory of it is vague because it wasn't like a big deal. But I remember there was a reference to, in that moment, was Arch available to go in the game? And the response was that Arch was available. And because I think it comes down to the call at the end of the games, right?
Right. Yeah. The question essentially was, did you have Arch as an option versus that pitch play that we didn't think was smart?
The part of that question felt like a setup, because if you say I didn't, then it's confirmation of a brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least that they were checking on a brain injury. And they went out of their way. He went out of his way in answering that to say that Arch was available, which dismisses the idea that he didn't have his helmet at the end of the game and wasn't able to play. So I think unless he was like, well, who's going to remember that other than Catch, and then just contradicts himself, I think that they would officially say this is his first. But look, we just did like 2 minutes talking about it. So it's complicated.
As far as how you handle him in the run game, he either plays or he doesn't play. Like, I mean, you can't
There's
think
no
about it.
magic fairy dust that says 2 days later or 9 days later or 16 days later or 160 days later that there's a right time to suddenly like, well, now you can dive head first versus not diving head first. Okay.
Yeah. Be a little different. We see those other super chats. We will definitely get to those. Also, we'll thank our great partners around here. Circle it on your calendar. November 21st, we're headed back out to the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. We're going to do the show out there on that Friday. This is the Friday before Arkansas. We'll do the show. We'll hang out for some Q&A. Come out and get you some of the great vodka, the cocktails. Plus, there is something very cool coming in November that I'm not allowed to tell you about now. As soon as I can tell you, I'll tell you. But we know we're going to be out there in November for sure. November 21st, circle it on your calendars. Come see us at the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. It is always a good time. Thanks to those of you who have jumped in and thrown us some super
I want to
chat.
put the phone in the refrigerator. We should be good.
Phone in the fridge. Excellent. That'll work.
Not the freezer. Everybody calm down.
Okay, $10 from Wes. Does Sark approach the remaining games with a different offensive philosophy, similar to how Texas needed to find more explosives in the second half of Mississippi State?
I mean, Wes, who the hell knows?
I
mean, he is whatever he does. I'll tell you, he'll approach this game differently than every other game that follows. This will be an incredibly. I think the smart money is that Matthew Caldwell gets the start, and I think one of the reasons why I've kind of taken the attitude this week early on that I have is like everybody needs to like. I was watching somehow, Chad, the Baylor 1989 Baylor Texas game ended up on YouTube.
Okay.
And I started to watch the game. It's an infamous 50-7 beatdown at DKR.
Yeah, it is.
That I watched from the 50-yard line, and I just thank God there's no actual videotape of how obnoxious I was on this in the stadium that day as a Baylor fan. In the game early on, Peter Gardere gets pick-sixed by Robert Blackman. And Peter was hurt, if I'm not mistaken. I was watching the broadcast. There were some questions about whether or not he was going to play. Well, starts out bad. So they give him the hook. And Donovan Forbes comes into the game. And the stadium rises out of their seats. It's so messed up.
Mm-hmm.
It's so messed up. And they're clapping, and like you can tell that the crowd is just, they don't give a damn about Peter Gardere, and like all they care is that this next dude it was cold-blooded. And then guess what happened to Donovan Forbes?
Not good things.
Robert Blackman pick-sixed him.
Oh.
And then they lost that game 50-7. And the whole moral of that is sometimes careful with what you wish for. It does get worse. It can get worse. And I thought Sark had the attitude of a coach today that knows he's got quite a challenge on his hands.
Yeah.
And he just didn't sound like a guy to me that was committed to anything. I think that if Arch can play, he's going to play. And I think he will navigate 4 quarters of football against Vanderbilt by any means necessary. He ain't trying to get this kid into the pros. He's also not trying to get KJ Lacey automatically this time to shine. Whatever the hell he needs to somehow find a way to get through this game 7-2 is what he'll do. And I just didn't get the vibe that he completely knows what that is yet. Like this is a unique week for him and his staff. And I think he absolutely senses it.
I think it's fair. By the way, on the injury front, the Arch stuff did eventually obviously get mentioned, but no question about if Taff has practiced. No question about if Hudson has practiced. So Sark got all the way out of the press conference with minimal Arch and no questions about Taff and Hudson for those that might be interested. James with a 999. Is it possible Caldwell, being more experienced, is a touch better at RPO and short throws than Arch, who has struggled there this year? Arch is better, but is there a chance he is more like Quinn than Arch?
He's not good, James. Quinn is a pro football player right now. This is what we got to stop doing. You literally have to stop this. His entire sample, he's a failed starter at Troy, who was a 130 quarterback guy last year at a lower level of competition. He's sure as hell not ever played a defense as good as the one that Vanderbilt will bring to the table. He was pretty terrible. I mean, he was 130 against Iowa. It's the only time he's ever played a Power 4 team in his career. 2 years ago, he was at Gardner-Webb. He was putting up, imagine the worst passing quarterback you've ever seen at Texas. That's what he did at Gardner-Webb. He immediately makes your run game worse. He's not unathletic. He's not as stiff, but he's not as mobile as Arch at a time when mobility at quarterback is really important because the line's not very good. There is tons of game film on him that Vanderbilt will be able to watch and go, oh, he doesn't like to do this. Cool. Good to know. Like, look, the Disney story's on the table, and I think that's dope. In fact, I want everybody to know I'm pro Disney story. If you tell me right now that Matthew Caldwell comes out and at a minimum has the Chance Mock moment in 2004 with the Texas Tech game, cool.
Tell me he's got Chance Mock ability, and I'm really excited.
I'm not even going that far.
Okay.
He just gets the moment.
Okay.
Sign me up, coach.
Oh, yeah.
All I'm telling you is there's no actual data. What Texas fans have done is they've seen, and Sark kind of went out of his way to point this picture correctly. They've asked him to throw the ball 11 times. A couple of times in pretty stressful situations, to be fair, but extremely limited. There's no real sense for like what it is. He sees that guy against their ones every day. Every day. Every day. Let me go back to August. Do you remember the moments when we talked about how good the second team offense had been in scrimmages and how the defense just couldn't get them off the field, and that, you know, if we're being honest, the wrong guy's playing quarterback because the guy that just keeps scoring touchdowns is the backup. Do you remember when that happened?
No, I do not.
It never happened.
Don't recall.
Never. Like, I made that up in my head. That wasn't even like 5 minutes of that actually happened. Like, the reality is the running game isn't better because of this. Like, there is a Arch run game threat that Matthew Caldwell can't replicate. There's a Arch Manning power run game that exists that I'm never comfortable with, kind of for this reason. Concussions. Like, the kid didn't come here to be Tim Tebow. I feel like if I got paid $1 every time I said that out loud, I'd at least have $14. And the protection gets to be more concerns. I think you're looking at a guy that I don't even know what the book on him really is, but Vanderbilt will know. Is he a guy that is at his best when he rolls right? They'll know. They'll have seen everything that Troy tried to do with him at quarterback. They'll have seen him have minimal. His last two starts at Troy last year, I think both were 129 passing efficiency game ratings. Like, if he does that on Saturday, Texas loses. They lose the game if he's asked to play the entire game, and it's like that. Texas won't score 20. Now, could the Texas defense hold Vanderbilt to less than 10, maybe. But like Texas is going to need, just like they would if Arch Manning plays, they're going to need some resemblance of plus quarterback play. That's how you beat good teams. It's tricky. It's tricky. I wouldn't get my hopes up. I would, by any means necessary, if that means they got to go Wildcat, introduce some Wildcat. If they need to have a KJ Lacey curveball package, hey man, this is a 1-game season on Saturday if Arch can't go. So it's like playoff baseball. It's a game 7. Everybody's available.
How do you get outs?
We're counting down outs and trying to get a run. And like we manage not even 3 outs at a time. We are managing 1 out every inning at a time. And I actually am, you know what? I'm okay with, like, I think that's how Sark feels. It's the right attitude. It is. This week, it ain't show friends. It ain't show feelings. It's show me 7-2. And if that means that the starting quarterback on Saturday doesn't get the grace from a slow start that Arch Manning has been receiving, guys, let me tell y'all something. Y'all kids out there. Look up Wikipedia the name Curvin Richards and ask yourself, did Jimmy Johnson back in the day treat all Cowboys running backs the same when it came to feelings? Or did Emmitt Smith get treated differently than Curvin Richards? Look that up. And when you figure out the answer to that, you might figure out like, oh, so that's why Matthew Caldwell doesn't have the same leash as Arch Manning. Yes.
I see these super chats. We will get to them. Also, remember, we're going back to TCH Social Austin. Kegs and Eggs time, 11 a.m. kick this week. So get out there. The specials are still in effect. If you want to do wings in the morning, do wings in the morning. You want to do a $3 jellyfish? Do a $3 jellyfish. But they also have breakfast all day, including the biscuits and gravy. Come see us at TCH Social Austin. Also, remember, Hijack Poker. Go to hijackpoker.com. Anywhere in the state of Texas, get that online poker going. Get it on any device you want. Catch, I got to be honest with you. I know you're going to be sticking with the enchiladas because of consistency. I'm seriously considering shaking things up this week because I've been eating this pasta, and it's great for the last couple weeks, but it has not produced great football. It produced some barely wins, but I don't know if I need to have the pasta at 10:30 in the morning when they're about to play Vanderbilt. So I'm seriously considering just hitting these biscuits and gravy and going basic.
I don't care what you do. I have to do what I have to do.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. I think I'm going to head. I think we're going to do.
And look, Michelle too. Like we're in this together.
Yeah, I think we'll balance it out. You guys need to stick with your consistency. I think I'm about to, whatever bit I thought I had these last couple of weeks, we got to shake it up.
Okay,
got to shake it up because they damn near lost both those games.
Let's do the super chats. And then I have to talk about, I don't know if we're going to have time. But there were a couple things from the press conference that we might actually make full shows later in the year, but I want to talk about now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's grab these. James finally unleash Hill to go after the quarterback in the second half. We saw what happened. I'm not confident they don't revert to having him play the field and not use him to his best strengths, rushing the backfield. Certainly had a great game.
James, I'd kiss you on your mouth right now if I could. You are so right. I watch the way they use Anthony Hill, and sometimes it reminds me of that quote that Sergio Kendall's old high school coach made about him and his days at Texas. You never make a thoroughbred run backwards. And it explained why they eventually figured out Sergio Kendall. And look, they used Anthony Hill different in the second half of that game than they have all season long. Remember a year ago, he almost had a double-digit number of sacks. They've been so committed to just rushing 4 that they've talked themselves into like, we're not going to have Anthony Hill do a ton of that. And then B, they've talked themselves into Anthony Hill doesn't need to be on the field. Keep his ass on the field.
Yep.
It's going to be a point next year, very early in the season, when somebody goes, it's just not the same without Anthony Hill at Mike linebacker, is it? And then somebody's going to be next to that person and go, no shit, can you believe we were taking him out of the game on purpose last year? On purpose.
We chose to do that. Tom Herman's receiver rotation thinks that's a little crazy.
It was a while. But yes, James, from your keyboard to God's ears, and let's hope that like they do more of that, because he's such an impact difference maker when they let him do it.
Yep. All right, James, again, $9.99 catch. Caldwell wouldn't be at Texas if he was god-awful. He wouldn't be ahead of Lacey. That's ridiculous. Arch is terrible at short throws. He could be better at those. That's not hyperbole.
Well, let me break this down, James. I no longer want to kiss you on the mouth. Let's go line by line. Caldwell wouldn't be at UT if he was god-awful. Nobody said he was god-awful. What we said was that he was not a good player last year at Troy, and that he wouldn't have been the starter this year, and that he hasn't been a good player in any season he's ever played at any school anywhere. That is not god-awful. That is above that, but it's not god. That's your descriptive words that I wouldn't personally use. I would say there were times last year where he was actually competent, but I would say that was competent at a lower level of classification. And I don't know that competent gets you through Texas against Vanderbilt. He's on the team because he was available. I mean, that is true. Texas took him late in the process. He had no other real options, and they had no other real options. I mean, I know Sark's like, we looked at a lot of quarterbacks. They brought in a lot of quarterbacks on visits. I know he was like, we really kind of liked him when he got here because like he seemed like he had a good attitude. They didn't talk to anybody else. I mean, it's just what happened. He's ahead of Lacey because he's competent enough to get them through a series without risking Lacey's season of eligibility, what they want to maintain at all costs. That's true. Arch is terrible at short throws. I mean, he could be better. Again, you're using descriptive words that I don't know that anybody would use. Terrible in certain contexts. It wasn't terrible on Saturday. He could do better at those. Yes. That's not hyperbole. If by that's not hyperbole, you mean he could be better at those and only that sentence, then you would be correct. Some of the other stuff I would disagree with. And that's my talk on your super chat.
James, thank you for that. Let's clean off the super chats with Hook'em Ace, $5. Can Nibblet be the blue replacement on offense? Is Arch headed down the Ash path? Oh my goodness.
A, no, there's been no sign yet that the coaches on the offense like want to treat him like that. And B, let's slow down. Like, here's the thing about David Ash that I remember. Like, that guy was having a hard time leaving his apartment. So,
yeah,
you know,
it got real bad.
Look, let's pray that there's not a guy on this team that ever goes down the Ash path, because that was super concerning. All these brain injuries are super concerning. But David Ash was like, I mean, he's a verb right now because he's really unique in profile and in, I think, the stakes of his concussion while he was actually playing. There have been guys that have had issues after their playing careers with this stuff, but David Ash was in real time dealing with some scary stuff.
Hook'em Ace, thank you for that. We'll get some more of Ketch's thoughts on the press conference coming right up after I tell you a little bit about sinus and snoring specialists. It can certainly be a serious thing if you've got snoring issues, sleep apnea issues, allergies. We're in that time of year where the weather turns a little cold and then it'll go back hot. and that'll mess with you. It'll go, it's dry all the time, and then it rains for like 2 straight days, and that'll mess with you. Get rid of your allergies for good. Get rid of those sinus issues, and get rid of your snoring and sleep apnea stuff for good. It's what I did in 2017. And this is the place, 601-0303. Securely text them or call them on that number, or go to sinussnoringent.com. Check out some of the videos and some of the information they've got there. They have added a doctor in this last year. I've told you that. So you got more appointment times possible, morning or afternoon, whatever's best for you. They will make sure to get you taken care of. Everything and anything in ear, nose, and throat, surgical, non-surgical options, they've got it all. Feel clear, rested, and healthy with sinus and snoring specialists. And please tell them you heard about it on Orange Bloods Live. We would appreciate that. We would also appreciate maybe if you, throw us some more super chats. If you want to do that, we'll certainly get to it. Sark's presser today, catch. Interesting, an interesting jaunt today with the media. What else do we need to talk about?
A lot of it was pretty uneventful. I think, the headline's going to be the Manning injury and the Caldwell piece of it.
Thank you to Ed and Anwar, by the way.
I do think that people picked up on the KJ Lacey stuff, though. I don't think you and I are alone in like, okay, noted, coach, kind of a thing.
Yeah, right.
I may be the only person that makes an issue out of the two things I want to bring up. And again, I think individually they are their own shows. Mm-hmm. And we may still circle back. We're 42 minutes into this bitch, Chad. Like, we may circle back. Number one, he made one of the questions in the context of program building and getting older players on campus on your roster. Someone made a point to point out what Vanderbilt is doing. I've made mention of this throughout the season. Vanderbilt's crazy old. And he was like, the guy was kind of asking a question of like, have you learned anything from them? Because they're so old and your team is super young, FYI. Mm-hmm. The first thing that Sark said that I thought was kind of a holy shit moment, Chad, was he admitted we're probably never going to be an old team.
Yeah.
Now, that's a holy shit moment because we don't know that actually works. Like Michigan 2 years ago wasn't an inexperienced team.
Yeah, they were super old.
Ohio State last year was not an inexperienced team. It was the opposite. There were a lot of guys that were coming back. They had an older quarterback. I thought it was just really interesting. And look, people will hear me talk about this and they'll go, catch, there you go, nitpicking again. And you're just picking his words apart, trying to start something. I'm just telling you what I heard. What I heard him say was, if we do the program correctly in our vision, right, which I think is we're clearing out the clutter, we're constantly cycling in really good players, and we're probably never going to have a bunch of dead weight. Okay, sure. But what he also said as a byproduct of, in the quest of doing that, we'll never be an old team. I just don't even know how to completely respond to that, because part of the reason why I've been an advocate for using the portal more is, well, it can get you older. And in a year when you've got 26 seniors and juniors, not 26 of each, 26 combined seniors and juniors, a number that no team in the history of college football has ever won a national championship with. It's never happened. In a year when that's happened, I've been like, well, one of the reasons why you might take 6 to 8 less projects on the high school range that might take 2 or 3 years of development, which you'll never see them on your own campus because they will never stay that long, because the portal, they'll leave and they'll get passed over, like all these reasons. Take some older guys because you can get yourself older. Instead of having 14 seniors, you could have a graduating class of 22 seniors. And you know what? Teams win national championships with 20 plus seniors. But then he really puts coal in my stocking, Chad. Because the thing that he then said, which I think people will have paid attention to, was like, I ain't really about this portal life, y'all. FYI, don't ask me about being an offensive coordinator either. Some stuff don't change. He said there would be years where they might take 4 to 6 guys in the portal. He then said there will be years we might take like 8, 9, 10. And then he was like, 11. And like I said, a little part of me died inside, Chad. Because what I've been pitching is that if you're Texas, you take a few less high school guys and a few more portal guys for reasons that this team should showcase. Like what he was essentially saying is, we didn't need any more offensive linemen in the portal. We didn't need a running back in the portal. We didn't need any more wide receivers in the portal, because if we had taken more of those guys, we might have destroyed the culture and fabric of our team.
The culture that just won 2 straight road games. That culture. That's the culture he's talking about.
But he does not get to 2 semifinals back-to-back without the portal. He just doesn't.
Yeah, it is.
He just doesn't.
Yeah, while coaching this team and watching this team, that is wild, because he needs to be completely comfortable. I get that each year might be different, but don't sound uncomfortable with the idea of 8 or 10 or more guys in the portal.
I don't understand. Like, on one hand, he says we brought in Cole Brevard, and we think he's added to the culture. Well, you bring in high school guys that can be bad culture guys. Chris Ross was a high school guy. Mm-hmm. In fact, there are very few portal guys I've seen them. He may say, well, that's because we're not bringing in a lot of portal guys. I don't understand. What is it about taking a half dozen more portal guys that would change the fabric of your program? Because the notion that you can't have unhappy guys who are high school players, the guys that just left in the middle of the season, high school guys, not portal guys. They're high school guys. Your starting quarterback this weekend may be a portal guy. Like, what did you say was the reason why you brought him in? You thought he was a good dude. Like, in reality, the guys that often come from the portal, you know what they are? Men. They're mature men. They don't have time for foolishness. The overwhelming majority of guys that are in the portal really aren't looking for cash grabs. They're looking for as good a position and as good a situation as they can find. And if by God they can upgrade, they're your hardest workers. They're just happy to be there. They're the guys that aren't taking it for granted that they're at Texas. So not a shock to hear Sark today say, you know what I love about Matthew Caldwell? Always picking his teammates up. Always the first guy on the field to congratulate someone. Always reminding guys how thankful he is to be here. It was just, I thought it was verbal diarrhea. Like, I thought, well, on one hand, you're telling us that a lot of these guys keep bringing in good culture, but then on the other hand, you're telling us you're not taking more because these guys don't bring good culture. Huh?
Yeah. So because he did mention the engagement part with Caldwell today, right? He talked about that nobody on the sideline is more engaged with the team than Caldwell is. Like, he gave him that love.
This is Caldwell's was at Troy and Gardner State, and he wasn't good. It's
Gardner
not one of these guys that was tearing it up, and it's like no one last year watched him play at Troy and thought, hey man, wait until November 1st of 2025. Oh, what happens in 11 months? Caldwell starting for Texas against the top 10 team at DKR. Dude, not even Matthew Caldwell's parents thought that was possible. And they love him.
Yes, of course. I like that.
You know the thing about that, Chad, he's got 4 games. If he's ever going to play in his entire life, He's got 4. His eligibility is about to expire. There is no NFL.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how great he throws this short stuff, not including the bowl games, he's got 4 games left before his life as a football player is over. It is the most romantic thing in the world to think he's got a Rudy moment inside of him. But, dude, you know why we talk about Rudy? Because in the last 50 years, there should have been one time. And nobody even likes Rudy. It's such a good story. Everybody ignores the fact that they kind of hate Rudy.
Yeah, apparently not a great guy.
Not a good hang. Likes to tell people he's Rudy.
He really enjoys that part. That's his favorite part, actually. Clint, I see your super chat. We will get to it. Thanks to everybody for jumping in the Specs chat today. Let's hear a little bit from Specs. The pies are coming.
Our famous pies have arrived, and they're out of this world. Specs, cheers to savings.
I just noticed the cow passing out at the end of the spot.
Oh, no, that's my favorite part.
Brilliant. The cow passing out is well done.
Chad, did I lose was that an okay rant? Did I go too far with that? Because I know that one hits my soul different than it will everybody else. But at a time when we're trying to cover the Texas football team and talk about things that need to be tweaked in order for this situation from this year to not be repeated, it sounded to me like he was screaming, I'm going to do some of the same stuff next year. Y'all just need to be ready for that.
I thought your response was perfectly fine and measured out. I don't think you flipped out at all. It is weird to me that question would have led him to that spot because I didn't understand that one at all. I think we could also do a show about his answer on AJ Milwee, but that's a whole nother.
No, Chad, can I?
He said something in there too that I thought was wait a minute.
Can we talk about the thing? This might be the biggest nitpick of it all, Chad, and you and I might just be the 2 old guys from the Muppets.
We love to do, hey, huh.
He was asked why AJ Milwee. This is insanely nuanced, but incredibly important. He was asked about Texas quarterbacks coach AJ Milwee being in the booth. We've talked about this for 6 weeks now. We talked about it after the Ohio State game, how Texas didn't have any of their assistant coaches in the booth.
Yeah, none of the main 10. None of the main 10 were in the booth until this past weekend when Milwee went to the booth and swapped out with Bamonte.
Perfectly reasonable question to say, hey, why'd you change?
Mm-hmm.
Because we have been talking about it, how nobody else in college football does it this way. Are you trying to outthink the room? Wouldn't you want somebody in the booth that you have a real relationship with, as opposed to nobody up there you've ever called a game with? You know what I mean? There's just some what's actually in the room working as your soundboard. Now, how he answered this question was really interesting. He points back to he wasn't even sure if it was last year or 2 years ago that they felt like Quinn Ewers needed help on the sideline. Sark, in his own words, said, I couldn't do it because, I'm the head coach.
Because of everything I'm doing as the head coach.
So they brought AJ Milwee down because Sark couldn't do it. And that since then, they've kept AJ Milwee on the sidelines because they thought it helped the quarterbacks because Sark couldn't do it. Now, I've really picked apart this answer for me to focus on the implications of his answer. But the context of this is a week ago when he was asked, should you be the offensive coordinator? Have you ever considered letting that go? He says, no, that's why they were hired. At which point people around the nation were like, no, you got hired to be the head coach. It's not why you were hired. You were hired to be the head coach. And Sark answered he was hired to be the offensive coordinator. The reason, let me just explain it for those of you who are like, so Catch, what are you getting at? One could argue that as the play calling offensive coordinator of the team, that if Sark feels like a position that in the last 5 years has produced no plus players would be aided by the ability to talk man to man on the sidelines with his offensive coordinator, that it would help the quarterback. It would be of tremendous benefit to the quarterback. Why? Because he made the move. That's why he brought AJ Milwee down. It goes right at the root of, well, Sark, if you're going to be the offensive coordinator, the play caller, and the head coach all at once, doesn't that have to include helping your quarterback? And if it doesn't, and it can't, don't we have to ask the question again? And nothing else even mattered. It's that he identified how the whole thing happened in the first place. And it is directly centered, Chad, around the concept of I'm the offensive coordinator and the quarterback needs to be able to talk to that guy on the sidelines.
Right.
But I got to pay attention to like game situation and down and distance, and I can't do it.
And here's the part I'll admit I might have missed. Did he go through what changed between the Kentucky game and the Mississippi State game to create this?
He did not, other than to say, I don't know, it was basically trying to make it sound like Bismonte could do the same thing. And so because they felt like, you know, he was on the staff in the capacity that he was in, that he didn't say, well, what did you think went wrong or needed to improve that led to the switch? He didn't answer that. He basically, in answering it, he just said the guy that we moved down from the booth to the sidelines, we think can do what Milwee was doing on the sidelines. And if that's true, then we want Milwee back upstairs. He did not answer why they even had to ask that, why they waited 8 games in to make the move. Like there was none of that.
Because now my question would go to, even if Arch is ready to go against Vanderbilt, top 10 team now, at home, whether it's him, whether it's Caldwell and Lacey, whatever the combos are, everything. If you believe it's important to have your quarterback coach talking to your quarterback on the field, are you still going to put – because in 1 week you decided it was important to have him in the booth, and now what do? Because this feels like a game, Catch, where every calming –
if you're ever going to have your quarterback's coach on the sidelines, it would be for this game.
If you are ever going to have a quarterback counselor on the field –
because Sark can't do it.
And Sark's telling you he can't do it. Isn't this the one where if you believe it's Milwee, it's got to be Milwee. If you believe it's Beaumonte, it's got to be Beaumonte. If you believe it's CDC, whoever you think it is, McConaughey, Glenn Powell, whoever you think can talk to Caldwell/Lacey. Let's assume that's what's happening. Don't you have to go all out to do that on Saturday morning?
Dude, I practically fell out of my chair when he answered that question like that, because he didn't. It's one of the few times I don't think he reverse engineered an answer in his head. He's always so on guard about, if I say something, you're going to connect it to something else. Mm-hmm. As soon as the words came out of his mouth, we brought him down because we thought Quinn needed it, and I couldn't do it. I was unavailable because of my – what was the exact phrase again?
Yeah, I think it was I may be paraphrasing here.
Like
but
all of my head coaching responsibility.
With all that I'm doing as head coach.
It was just like, oh! It was such a aha moment. And I at the time, I'm convinced you and I may have been the only 2 people that heard that. I literally – told Chad right away in code. I didn't even say it out loud. I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe what he just said. And Chad was like, yep.
And trust me, I'll bet you, as the person who asked that question a week ago, I bet Anwar Richardson heard it. I bet Anwar heard that one like, wait, what? What
It
did he
was such an interesting thing to say.
It
was
so
you know what
weird.
that was? That was his Tom Herman, I don't feel comfortable calling plays moment. Tom didn't realize that when he did that, he was going to be making a comment that people would remember. To him, it just sounded so rational to say it out loud. I think that's what Sark just did, but like there's a rub there that goes back to what the previous conversation that interesting. That's all I'll say. It was interesting. And you're right. What they do on Saturday now in light of the switch that they made, I mean, if they thought they were doing it right for the last, I don't know, year, 2 years, however long they've been doing it, it goes back a while. They wanted him on the sideline with Arch. I don't know when he didn't really specify. He literally gave an answer that suggested he didn't remember when.
Yeah, because you're coming out of 2 games on the road against teams that you were supposed to handle a certain way, and you didn't. Your schedule is about to thicken up here, except for the Hogs. Like you're about to play 3 teams that can beat you. Period. We knew it, and now we absolutely know it. Maybe you could get away with some mess when Arkansas comes in. You try to mess around in any of those other 3 games, you get beat.
Well, look, the good news is Texas is kind of comprised to win some rock fights. So is Vandy, though. Vandy won an absolute rock fight banger on Saturday.
Hey, if I need some dark alley assistance catch, I'll go to either one of these defenses and I'll feel pretty good. Texas and Vandy get nasty on defense.
What do you think the point total is?
You need 20 to win.
You need 20 to win?
Point total is under 40 for me, but I think you need 20 to win the game. Okay. It's like I got like a 20-17 game in my head, and frankly, I don't know who I'm picking right now.
I don't know what I can expect of this Texas defense. They haven't played a Power 4 team at home this year. What are we supposed to make of all that?
That's a great point. Plus, I've watched them play twice without a starter, and it made an impact. Needing, pardon me if I need to know if 16's out there.
They have to get him back this week.
I mean, Taff in a club is going to be really, really important because if Taff is watching on the sideline, I think I'm picking Vandy.
I thought Phil Simi played okay, but we keep doing this thing where someone did it on Orange Bloods today. They were like, the wide receivers are fine. And it's like, well, I actually thought on Saturday the wide receiver unit was outstanding. It hasn't been all season, but I thought they were on Saturday. Ryan Wingo drops excluded.
Yeah, if you could fix the Wingo drops, they would have been excellent. But even with what they did, the big plays he made, and you added in the Livingston catch and the Mosley catch, oh my goodness, they made plays when it mattered.
Let me ask you a question about the wide receivers, and again, this could be its own show. And I know we're going to wrap up, so last thing I'll leave you with. Are there any receivers on this Texas team as it currently stands that if they come back next year and the goal is to compete for a national championship, there's no doubt about it, walk-in starters, no questions asked?
No doubt about it, walk-in starters.
When you start piecing next year's team together, you're like, don't even bother. Ryan Wingo's there, and there ain't nobody that could move him out.
Not right now, no.
I agree.
I mean, I'd love to make an argument for either Livingston or where Mosley might be headed or Wingo at his best, but no, not right now.
That's what they did last year, though. With the same group of players that cannot make the same mistakes.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way.
They'll basically return everybody, and this group's not good enough. Because the bar can't be Fine. Fine won't beat Vanderbilt on Saturday.
Right.
And Fine wouldn't have beaten Mississippi State on Saturday. It had to be better than Fine.
Yeah, no, they needed a lot of weird stuff to help them do that. I did the rewatch today, and it's one of those, it's a weird game when you rewatch it and you still think, well, are they going to win the game? Like, wow, it's crazy.
Did you ever see the end of the SMU game?
I have seen the field goal. I never saw the catch you were talking about, though.
You have to.
I never saw the catch on the highlight.
I did. I tried to find it on Twitter, couldn't find it. Like, I only saw it because they showed it that one time, and I wish I could show it to you.
That's crazy. We got a couple other super chats to clean off here. Dylan, $4.99, with the entire rosters of LSU, Florida, and Penn State coming open in the transfer window. Wow, that's something to consider. Should we be cautiously optimistic we can radically upgrade? Dylan, maybe not with what your coach said today, if we're picking it apart correctly. But to your point, there's a lot of talent, and we'll see how it plays out. How many guys are going to move and announce something in the next 30 days in those windows, and how many are going to wait until January? But those are 3 talented rosters that are going to be ripe for maybe the picking a little bit.
You can be cautiously optimistic. I mean, I always want you to be optimistic, and cautiously is probably the best way to go about doing so. But radically upgrade? I mean, I think that's where Chad's saying your head coach told you he ain't trying to radically change nothing. I wonder what an actual real general manager, like a real one, that more in line with Sark can't just shut him down if Sark disagrees. I wonder what that would sound like with regards to what somebody who could look at this out of the weeds and 30,000 feet up, how they might think the best way of, because that person's reply might be different than Sark's, and Sark's might go culture, and the other guy might go less shitty players being counted on, which is, I would argue, not having talent on the offensive line right now is worse than culture. Yeah. They're losing games because of that. They're barely winning games because of the other thing. If you listen to Sark, like that culture is saving them, but how much more saving would just 6 better players who are actually playing right now do? More than culture, you could at least make the argument. Like if you had 6 better players that you went through the portal, but your culture was worse, but you won by 9 last week instead of going to overtime. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Culture doesn't beat top 10 teams. That's what they're about to run into.
Every team thinks they have a good culture. They all do. Everybody thinks they have magic powers with culture.
Speaking of magic powers, Catch, Clint needs some of yours this week. $2. We need the MC/KJ isn't good enough for Texas tweet. Can you give that to them this week and work some of your magic? If it's needed. Maybe.
Here's the thing. It has to happen organically.
Okay.
I don't take requests. Requests don't work.
Okay. It's got to be like middle of the first quarter. Things have not gone well, and you feel it. You have to feel it in the moment.
There are times when it's like, you know what? This is both a true statement and something that really needs to turn around.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, whenever you can think of this, A, makes sense, but B, boy, if it could flip, would I be upset if I looked like an asshole? Nope. Send.
Yeah. Right.
Like people keep on throwing the Ryan Nibblet thing in my face, and it's like, guys, you realize Ryan Niblet's making my life better? I am not mad at anything that you think about the Ryan Nibblet tweet at all.
Yeah.
None at all.
Hey, you said Wildcat earlier. I thought of him. We've talked about jet sweeps. I might give 21, 3 extra touches on offense because of what he's been doing.
I'll go out there and go, Steve Sarkisian, come hell or high water, will never let Ryan Nibblet have more than 1 touch in a game. Boom. He'll get 7 next week.
There you go.
Now, look, I can't control what happens with those 7.
Right. Sure.
Like Jaden Blue got popped in the cow. Boy, he got hit hard.
Yeah, he did. Whew.
I'm not even mad at him that he fumbled on that play because I know he can fumble without getting hit that hard. Whenever the stadium shakes and the mics pick up the sound of you getting hit, I can't be mad.
Dude, I'd have left organs on the field. They'd have taken me out of there in a wheelbarrow.
I mean, it was loud. It sounded like somebody was in a car crash.
That was rude is what that was. That was craziness. All right, Mike D throwing in a little 5 spot for us. Thank you, Mike. Catch, we need to start a campaign to get you hired as GM. Let's say you do. Most important target in the portal from LSU, Florida, or Penn State.
Just their best players.
What about that? Yeah.
I will
Defensive.
get our linemen, but I don't need the linemen to come from those three schools. If they can, great. But like, and I think this is where Sark does kind of subscribe to is like badass players apply only. I think one of the things that they've got to do a better job of, this is really one of Sark's weak spots, is that like he's not about going out and getting Matthew Caldwells at other positions. That's not what he does. Matthew Caldwell's such an anomaly in a lot of different ways. Matthew Caldwell didn't come from a Power 4 school. Texas last year pretty much has a rule. If you're not transferring from one of the Big 4 conferences, we ain't even messing with you.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's not how Oregon did it. Oregon, literally, their right tackle came from Texas State.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot there. Every school's got a different set of like ethos related to how they view this thing. And Sark's is different. It's more stringent, but I think it left them empty handed. I think those hard rules work, but like eating too much candy after Halloween, like you don't want to eat the whole bag in a night, no matter how much you like it. And I think that Sark's got to have somebody in the room with him who he listens to, who says, hey, you know what we don't do anymore? No more ironclad rules about anything, ever.
Right.
Ever.
Even with the rule you threw out, though, Catch, I'm thinking of 3 guys right now. Singleton, Craver, and Concepcion. They all played at schools we've all heard of.
Yeah.
Right? Not one of those guys. You know, he played at Ferris State. Where's Ferris State? No. That's the Ole Miss quarterback. That's not one of those guys. Those guys played at NC State, Mississippi State, and what was the other one? Oh, Georgia Tech, I believe, are the 3 schools for those guys. So, like, those are the type of guys, if I'm a Texas fan, it's like, okay, fair enough, you're not going to go after a guy from Troy, but what about those dudes? Those dudes were at Power 4s.
Well, and the thing that it's boring to talk about, but what you're doing is you're improving player 40 through 60 on your roster. That doesn't mean that all the guys that you're replacing are all in that part of your roster, maybe even worse than 60, right? So you're trying to make small margins, but you can't think of it as we're replacing guys 40 through 60 on our roster with guys who will be 40 through 60 on the roster. It could happen, but some of those guys might turn into top 15 guys on your roster. Like, you know, you want, and then what you want is a guy who was 35 last year to be 45 or 50 this year. You're deeper, you're more talented, you're better, and you do it in small margins. It really is improving the underbelly of your program. It's not your starters that you're really trying to improve. Although wherever you can find them, you'll take them. What you're really just trying to do is the overall scope and depth of your 2 deep. And Texas too often last year looked at offensive linemen and they were like, well, I don't know that guy's an all SEC player. And you know what? I don't know if our guy is an all SEC player. So what's the difference? There are stages. Texas has been running out 4 out of 10s. A 6 or 7 out of 10 won't win you a championship potentially. You might not win a national championship, but it also might keep you from going 8-4. And I think there's just some level-headedness to the discussion that I just think it's weird. Sark doesn't have an ironclad rule with concussions, but he seems to have a pretty ironclad rule with regards to how high he's willing to go in the portal. I'm telling you, when he got to 11, he sounded like he was about to shit a brick.
Yeah, he did.
It's like, 11. Sark, Jesus, slow down. Glad nobody asked you to take a 12. All right, I'm done.
By the way, I still don't know what the ironclad would be for concussions for him. He continues to handle that media group brilliantly, Catch. I was so impressed with what he did today. And, you know,
he's got him so trained.
It was so impressive. Ed throws in the brief question. He answered it and assumes that's it. Now y'all can't ask again, to the point that when Anwar tried, he cuts him off. Anwar is starting to ask a perfectly logical question. And he was going to get a great answer if Sark would have gone there, but he didn't. And he said the word doctors and looked at Anwar like, well, come on, man, that's it. We can't talk about it any further. So they didn't, and no question about Taff or Hudson. That's well done, Sark. Well done.
The thing is, he did. There were a couple of the thing is, he snuck in a couple of haymakers in the wrong direction.
I did.
I'm telling you, the portal thing's got me on tilt.
We'll it may just be the two of us, but we'll be talking about it. And real quick, Catch, recruiting/transfer impact from the coaching carousel. Catch the Wave asked an interesting question here. So far, with these coaching moves, I feel like we're not seeing a whole bunch of guys in the 30-day window say, yeah, I'm in the portal. So do you think we're going to see, like, when the team season ends, they're just going to let it be known, hey, I'm going to get in the portal for that 2-week window? Do you think that's what we're going to see here when it comes to LSU, Florida, Penn State, etc.?
How many days until the portal opens up?
Days until? It's like January 2nd. So it's a few.
It's like 65 or something like that.
A lot of days. Yeah.
They can't enter. They cannot enter until January 2nd.
Well, yeah, they can because their coach just got fired.
Yeah, but I mean,
if they wanted to,
they're doing what they need to do.
See, I agree.
There is a 65, like there will be months of negotiations. That doesn't have to be said. It's all happening behind the scenes. And quite frankly, there's nothing advantageous about putting your name into the portal right now anyway. The best way to negotiate the most amount of money if you're one of these kids on one of these programs is not to show any cards.
Yeah.
Not to even indicate that you're even interested. Because if they want you want them to think, well, I might just stay. More. And so right now, like, would it behoove you to let the whole world know that, like, you're open and interested to some degree? Does the level of outreach change at all? No. Anybody who would be interested ain't trying to hear you're not interested. They will get to you. They will find your agent. They will get to your parents. They will get to your street handlers, your position coach, whatever the hell you have, they'll find it. So that's why, like, these kids are like, they're asking their agents, should I get in the portal? And fuck knows. Hey, shut up. Right. Don't say a damn thing until I tell you to say something. Got it.
Yeah. And maybe in a weird way, it's why the teams are firing the coaches in the middle of the season, because they know that 30-day window is not going to be much.
Yeah.
It's not going to feel like something the players immediately have to make.
And I think there are still a lot of guys that want to get more game film out there.
Yeah. If you've already played your 4 and you're not thinking along red shirt lines, then just go, just play.
I mean, you're on a team that just fired its coach. There's a good chance that the film you've put out this year is not good. So
that's fair too.
You need to try to get as much good film as you can.
Yeah. Except for that big D lineman for Florida that caught the interception. He put that was pretty good film.
You know what Sark didn't say about Caldwell that's interesting in retrospect? And again, I know I'm looking at the clock. We need to wrap up. He didn't say, well, when we saw Matthew Caldwell's film, we knew we had to have him. You know what I mean? Like,
right? No, he didn't. Yeah.
Really interesting how he talked about Caldwell today. Because if there was one thing that I might have expected that we didn't see, was he didn't come up as Caldwell's hype man. Not at all. He was respectful. But there wasn't one time I thought to myself, oh, he's trying to build Caldwell up to both himself, the team, the player.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what happened. And it kind of felt like that would have been the natural head coaching playbook move.
By the way, Catch, maybe I missed something here. Tennessee Longhorn, the rule change, chat. Did they get rid of the 30-day rule or something? Is that just gone?
No.
Okay.
But the kids, it's inside of when the portal would already open. That rule really only matters now after if there was a coaching change after the portal window. Because nobody's hurt by not entering the portal right now. In fact, you're much better off just keeping your leverage, keeping your position, unless you're literally trying to stop at 4 games and you kind of have to announce, because at some point somebody asks, it's like, oh, well, he's protesting. He's purposely not playing like that before it gets to that. But there are less of those guys. I don't think there's a single guy like that on the Texas roster right now. There's not one guy that I'm looking at that's like, well, he's sitting on 4 and might not play. No, there aren't that many. Most people, if you've used your red shirt, it's completely off the table. It's just, there's just a real finite number of guys that could even be possible to. And if we get to week 9 in the season, it's really a small amount of people that would qualify.
Yep. All right, before we get out of here, don't forget about AV consultations and what they can do for you. I had a great weekend of football watching yesterday. I'm watching Cowboys, Bucks, Red Zone all at the same time, 3 boxes going. Make sure that your split screens are as big as they need to be. Make sure you've got that screen you've always wanted. Make sure when Christmas and Thanksgiving roll around and the family comes over that you've got the hookup that you want. This is the place that's been doing it for all kinds of folks, restaurants included, since 1988. If you go to Pluckers or Cover 3, those places in the Austin area, they're set up by AV Consultation. So get some ideas there, then call them and let them know what you're thinking. 255-8678 or go to avconsultations.com. Let them handle every detail, including buying that big new TV you've been looking at, and be sure to tell them that you heard about it here on Orange Bloods Live. Good lively Monday show today after a Sark press conference. Catch, anything else we need to hit today?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you all for liking, subscribing, getting your notifications. 172,000 subscribers, if I saw the number correctly today. Thank you, guys. That means 173 is coming up next. Thank you guys for helping us get there. We appreciate you. Tomorrow it'll be Tuesday, so it will be the Modcast on a Tuesday. Catch will be back with us on Wednesday, and we roll towards Vanderbilt. Remember, it's an 11 a.m. kick. Come see us for the watch party at TCH Social Austin 183.